Hello, welcome. I'm Sarah, and I would love to share with you a restorative or calming practice. So when we're cleansing, when we're very busy, sometimes the nice balance is not to just keep moving, but to actually slow down, to rest, to go inside. So let's do a small, juicy, calming, restorative practice. So let's start with, you'll need a couple of things. I suggest two blankets, or excuse me, two blocks, a bolster if you have it. If you don't have it, then you want two blankets that will fold up to use as a substitute for the bolster. So once you've gathered all those things, and feel free to pause the tape until you get everything, then we'll start actually not in a restorative, but actually just to move a little bit. But we'll just start nice and simply. Now, if you don't have a bolster, you might want to set up your blankets right from the start before you start moving. And so you take a blanket and you just roll it lengthwise and then put it in another blanket and then roll that one up. So it's not as thick as a regular bolster, but it works just fine. It works better than not having one. If you want to thicken it up even more and put it in a third blanket, that could be even cozier. Okay, so I'm going to have the bolster nearby for this one. And we're going to start off with easy cat-cow. So we'll start off hands and knees position. Just anchoring the fingerprints down, the crease of the wrist pointing straight ahead. Take a nice breath in. And when you exhale, extend through your arms as you gaze in towards your heart, rounding your back toward the ceiling. And then inhale, the sitting bones tilt to the sky, and you release in the upper back as you broaden the chest. And then exhale, round through the back, look in, and then inhale, open up the front as the hips widen. And then just keep going as you breathe, so you're finding your own rhythm. Just be cautious that the inhales is not about collapsing in the lower back, but really about trying to wake up the upper back into a little flexibility. The exhale, see if you can round not just the upper back, which is a little easier to round, but also really draw the back of the waist more into the back of your body. Do that maybe one or two more rounds, depending on the speed of your breath. And then go ahead and gather your bolster close to you. We're going to go into supported child pose. You can just put the bolster right in between the knees and lay down on your bolster and turn your head to one side. So I like to have my hands in a place where the shoulders aren't falling off my back. I snuggle them in more under the shoulders and just rest my head down. Take a couple of nice, conscious, deep breaths in and out of the nose. If your neck doesn't like turning to one side, you can take another blanket or any other piece of material and put it down under your forehead so your nose still has some room to breathe. And as you continue breathing in this position, allow yourself to feel the weightiness of the back of the pelvis and the buttocks flowing down toward the heels. If this is uncomfortable for your ankles, you can put a little towel underneath the front of your ankles so that the ankle's not overly bending. Or you can come up a little bit higher, you can put the bolster under your tush. Sometimes that helps. Just a few more breaths here to not only feel the heaviness of the back of the pelvis as it roots down, but feel the breath widening across your back. Every inhale. And at this point, if you've turned your head to one side, switch, turn your head to the other side. So your neck is an equal stretch. Again, feeling the weightiness of the pelvis. On the inhale, feeling the expansion and pliability of the back of the body, receiving the breath in the back of your rib cage and lungs. And how on the exhale, it's this very, very sweet release of the head, of the chest, of the weight of the body towards the earth. And the bolster is there to help so that we're not just collapsing in the belly, but there's some support there. Let the jaw relax and your eyes relax. Enjoying this deep, nourishing few moments. It's called child pose. We can just picture seeing a young child sleeping and how at peace they look. Okay, and then slowly come back upright, and we'll rearrange the bolster or your rolled up blankets to go horizontal on your yoga mat like this. We're going to move into a restorative side bend. And in this one, you'll have your hips alongside of the bolster, your knees in line with the direction of the bolster. And then you're going to lay over the bolster so that the rib cage is over it, like this. Oh, that's nice. And then you rest your head on your arm, or if you need a little bit more support, you can put your head on a block or another blanket. Okay. You can even rest your head. So anything that feels comfortable here. And then this other hand, the top hand, can either just rest in front of your chest or on the bolster, or for a little bit more stretch, you take it over the other hand as well. So the hands are just stretching like a standing side stretch, really. You're going to breathe into the rib cage, the top part of the rib cage. Just feel it as a side stretch and an expansion of the spaces in between your ribs. And I'm gathering again the sense of feeling full and open in this area that we tend to tighten over time or collapse into. But you can continue in this way, just with your knees bent. Or at this point, you can start to stretch your bottom leg out, and the top leg goes forward. And the legs are a little bit more active here. So it's not completely restorative where you're just kind of completely relaxing the muscles. Just a little bit of extension through the legs, a little dynamism in the legs. And then again, breathe into the top ribs. You can even do a little bit of a turning backwards with the torso, like a little bit of a mini back bend here. A little bit of a twisting side stretch. Deep breath. And then bring your legs towards each other. Undo the twist and the torso, knees bent. And then use your hands to come on back up. And just simply turn to the other side. So you'll actually just turn this way, but I'm going to go this way so you can actually still see me. Okay? So the knees are in line with the bolster, your hips against the bolster, and then you roll over the bolster. And the bottom arm is extending or bending, whatever feels more comfortable for you, propping the head up either on an extra blanket or block as you need. Okay, and the hand can be on the bolster or on the floor, or for a little bit extra extension through the top side of the body, the arm can extend and stack. And then in this sweet position, the bolster is creating a side stretch for us. A little bit of a compression for the bottom that actually opens up the top. And then when you're taking a couple of deep breaths, so you can visualize every inhale creating a little bit more space in between each pair of ribs. And then when you exhale, you just relax into that new spaciousness. I find over time the space between my collarbone and my hip gets almost smaller and smaller during the day. We tend to just get more kind of collapsed inside, just to start to kind of open it up again and come back into our sense of fullness. It seems very, very healing and nourishing at times when we need that. Now you can continue with the knees bent, or you can start to stretch the bottom leg out fully. And then the top leg goes forward, and the legs are toned, the feet and the legs are gently active. Not so much that you're taking out the easefulness of the pose, just enough that there's enough support for your back. You don't take the leg out so far that the hips are no longer stacked on each other. The leg is back, so the hips are nicely stacked. Then you can stay in the side bend or make it a little bit, kind of lean back a little bit. I move my bottom arm back a little bit and do a little bit of a turn open to the ceiling with the chest. Kind of changes where the openness happens in the rib cage on the top side, doesn't it? Okay, let's undo the torso twist, bend the knees. Again, take another full breath. And then use your hands and come on back up for our next one. So in this one, we are also going to use the bolster again. You can move the bolster lengthwise on the yoga mat. I'm going to move into a passive back bend. So the knees will turn perpendicular to the bolster, and your hip is right up against the bolster itself. So then I'm going to take my fingertips on either side of the bolster. Take a big breath and just take a moment and just get really long in the back of your body. Okay, so that we're not leading with the rib cage here. We're almost turning to the heart, rounding in this humble bow. Then take your groins back so that the buttocks are not tucked under. And so with the ribs engaged back, the buttocks expanded, we turn our chest more toward the bolster. And then you start to lie down here on the bolster. Elbows can go down. And the most supportive place for your neck is to turn the same direction as your knees. That's the easiest for the neck. And so we have a hip opener, side twist. Now you could also turn your head down. You can also make a pillow with your hands to do that so that the nose has the freedom to breathe. And some of you will feel quite comfortable turning your head away from the knees in the other direction. If you start to feel any uncomfortableness in the neck, it's just not appropriate to do that. There's a lot of benefit no matter what position the head is in, so don't strain or force anything. A couple of conscious deep breaths. Twists are so helpful when we're cleansing. It's going to really help things keep moving and flowing, and not, if we're really trying to release that stagnation quality that tends to happen after a whole season or a couple of seasons of not having a nice cleanse. Now, after being in this pose for a little bit, you may feel like, well, I can go a little further because the body acclimates. So feel free, you can have your hands next to the bolster, lift yourself up slightly. Make sure the ribs are not hopped forward. And you just take your butt out again. Twist a little deeper from the top of the back, winding the back around the spine. And then lower down a little bit more. It might feel a little different. Maybe the head wants to change positions. But you allow yourself to feel that intuitive wisdom about what's the most appropriate place and optimal place for my body right now. No one's here except you, so you don't have anything to prove to anybody. Smooth, even, delicious breaths. All right, friends. Let's take the hands about chest height, or maybe near your face, and then press back up out of the twist. Now from here, you're going to just turn your knees to the other direction, and your hips go toward the floor. So for me, I'm going to actually spin around so you can still see my face. So the other hip is against the bolster. The knees are perpendicular to the bolster. You turn with the fingers on either side. Now, when we're taking the groins back and apart, it's easy to take the ribs forward, which is not super ideal. So you can either groins back and then take the front ribs in, lengthening the tailbone and go down. Or you can start with a humble bow, then groins back, and then lower yourself down, as if you're trying to get both sides of the chest onto the bolster evenly. The most supportive place for your neck is looking in the same direction as your knees are. So you can maybe start there, or if you know it just feels more nourishing to stack your hands or put a blanket where your forehead is, go ahead. And of course, you can turn your head away from your knees. I like to take a couple of breaths in the position where I think is going to work best for me, and then listen for any cues or inner talking from my body telling me otherwise. And then we appropriately listen back out when we need to or deepen when we need to. You start to feel the dynamism of what happens on the inhale versus what happens on the exhale. A broadening, spaciousness on the inhale, and the exhale is this deep releasing. You may even feel that you can go deeper naturally without actually pushing or turning yourself, just by, when we exhale, the twist deepens naturally. Just by allowing our body to release more with gravity. So you can continue in this position, or as your body is probably acclimated, you can come up a little bit more. Ribs back, groins back and apart. And we turn from the upper back or the mid back around a little bit deeper. And then again, find the breath and how it helps you move and experience the pose in a very intimate way. I love this pose for so many reasons. But the twists help releasing, whether it's our digestive system or just energy or stuckness even in the mind. And yet we're doing it in a very gentle, restoring way, where we can release our effort and just let nature do the work. And just allow that potency to happen. Okay, now we'll take the hands alongside the chest. Lift yourself up. Oh, that's good. And then swing your legs forward. Excellent. So, all right, so we've done a forward fold, we've done side bends, we've done twists, and then we want to have a nice back bend as well. So in this one, I'm going to have you gather your blocks. If you have a bolster, I'm going to have it the same length as the yoga mat. I personally like another blanket for my head as well. You're not making this super high. I don't want you to lay down with your head tucked under. Just have a little bit of support here. And then you'll be sitting on the floor, not right up against the bolster, a little bit further away. I don't know, what is that, a couple of inches, okay? And then we're going to have the blocks for Supta Baddha Konasana. You'll lie back down, put your feet together, like this, soles of the feet together, and even if you're one of these folks who can just drop the knees right to the floor, instead of doing that, have a little bit of lift under your knees. And then you rest your head on the blanket here. If you don't have a blanket, you can rest it flat. Unless your head does kind of this position where your chin is much higher than your forehead, that's not going to feel very good for your neck or your shoulders afterwards. You want to get your head on enough lift. Oops. There we go. it's supported. Now you can also lift the blocks up as high as you need to. Like if the inner thighs are feeling a little bit stiff or tight, you lift the blocks up as high as you need to in order to feel like the knees can be open but not straining or you're not in any kind of uncomfortableness. Okay? So you find the correct height for your knees. Feet together. And if your shoulders are rounding up, I suggest taking the shoulder blades more underneath you. So bending the elbows, push your elbows to the floor, and now you can snuggle the shoulder blades more under the heart, under the back, and then rest down on that. And the palms are up, just like a shavasana position. Oh, I want to take a nice deep breath. Now, if this is feeling too archy in your low back, then you press the feet down, lift your tush up, and then tuck it under. So the tailbone and the buttock flesh are moving away from your head toward the end of your yoga mat, and then keeping that, sit back down again and rest your arms. So in back, we'll come to a natural curve, but now it has a lot of traction and length, which really feels good. Okay. And now go ahead and close your eyes. You might even start this pose with a couple of deeper conscious breaths, feeling like when you're exhaling, you're allowing the deep release of gravity. Whereas we're feeling the inhale is just creating a lot of spaciousness and a sense of openness on the inner spaces. The longer we stay, the more you can start to feel that expanse across the chest, how it opens up through the belly area. There's a deep release in the groins. And when we're supporting the knees with the blocks, it also starts to relax and release any tension in the low back. So a very open position, but also a deeply supported position. If the breath wants to get more natural and more regular rather than a deep breath, then by all means let it move into that calming, restoring, easeful, effortless approach. Beautiful pose to reflect the support that you have with the cleansing community, support that nature gives us, the spaciousness and the openness that this allows in our own energy during the cleanse. And the cleanse can be very challenging. It's nice to feel that we can really release and take nourishment while simultaneously deeply resting. Relax the eyes, the jaw. Visualize even the cheekbones relaxing and the ears relaxing. So take a nice deep breath. And then from here, let's join the knees together and have your feet flat on the floor. Widen your feet almost as wide as the mat. Just let your knees fall against each other for a moment. You can keep your eyes closed as your hands find the blocks and then move them off to the side. And then we'll carefully roll onto one side. You can either roll off of the bolster or scoot your hips to the side and then roll on the side of your body. Keep the side bent for a few moments. Take a side-lying fetal position, the pose of new beginnings. And then keep the head and the heart turned to the floor. Relax your belly and your legs. You're not going to use your stomach muscles to come up. Use your hands. Press yourself back up to seated. All right. And then we'll close with just a few moments of child pose again. So you'll straddle the bolster. Perhaps there's something for your head. And we'll sit back into this supported child pose, either with your head turned or your head down. This feels too much for your low back. Just to get a little bit more support under the belly part. So you're really allowing the kind of sweet rounding to happen rather than an arch in the low back. Close your eyes. Enjoy your breath. If your head's turned to one side, turn it to the other direction. And then slowly bring yourself back up. And then before you turn off the machine, I'd like to encourage you to just take a seated position, cross-legged or kneeling. And then take a moment with your eyes closed and just start to feel into any effects that you may notice from doing this practice of restoring and calming and bringing ease and spaciousness into certain areas of the body, while also encouraging the body to have its natural functionings, particularly in the digestive system. Notice the quality of your mind. And this is a video that you can come back to again and again, even when you're not on the cleanse, when you are on your moon cycle, when you're feeling particularly busy, when you need a little bit extra care. Let's turn this on and in less than a half an hour, be rejuvenated. Feel free to take a couple minutes extra in Shavasana if that feels good, or we can end here. For a wonderful cleanse, and may you just honor yourself for the time that you've taken to self-nourish, to self-care. It benefits you, your loved ones, and